Hey everyone, I hope you're well. This is CoinsKid. Just going to dive into Bitcoin. We're going to CoinsKid crew. So I've made a couple of updates on a couple of indicators for you. I've released another indicator for the CoinsKid crew called the start at the top. I've got that out to you, and I've updated the bull market support band. Now the bull market support band works on every single chart. Okay, so I'll go through that with you quickly. But I just want to show you we had a perfect lineup here. Basically, this is just not something we see often on the index. Basically, we've got the liquidity dance, which is negative. Look at that, which is basically mamas and poppers investing. The day before it was up 100%. This is why you've seen the massive pullback, and yesterday it printed a negative 13% return, which means I think today we'll see a little pump, and this is basically what I've been relaying to you. I think we'll pump today. So you know, we're looking at a drawdown, and then we're looking at a bit of a pump, because whenever we see a spike up in liquidity dance, it's always a buying opportunity a couple of days later. So we're seeing that right now. We're seeing the LD show negative, so therefore people are beginning to speculate a little bit, and it's a precursor to that. So I expect some kind of little bounce today. Okay, and this is what I'm looking at. Equally, we've got BTC below 30. This threshold here is basically the RSI. You know, it's basically oversold, and then we've got the tether dominance above 70, pushing up to 78, almost 80. So it's really overbought. So obviously, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to work out. Okay, you know, you should be looking at some little pumps. So we're looking at bullish divergences across the board. We're looking at a little bit of relief in the market today, because we are seeing 5 waves to the downside. Equally, what we do have is the micro fear and greed in the fear zone at 18. So we've got a perfect, opportunity right now. And look at all the buy one and the buy signals in the market zones as well. On the CoinsKid index right there. So again, you can get this. Just go to coinskid.com, sign in, follow the process. Really simple. They're little levels that we need to pay attention to in this market, because it's only a few weeks ago that these were really overextended. The micro fear and greed was up here. You got the sell zone was outweighing the buy zone, and it's just a polar opposite basically. And this is what we trade on this channel. So let me just run through a couple of updates that I've got for you on the indicators, and then we'll dive into the charts. Okay. So this simple little indicator made for the CoinsKid crew called the start at the top. I've made a couple of videos on this already, and you can get this into your charts yourself. It's really easy. It's just a couple of moving averages, but just there, mark the top. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. In every single cycle so far anyway, and obviously this cycle could be different, is basically this moving average pierces the previous all-time high. And then boom, it's the start at the top. Really simple. That's why I've called it a start at the top. I've gone through this, start at the top, start at the top, start at the top, just there, because this band goes through the previous all-time high every single time. It's the start of the impulsive wave top, and then boom, you're in top territory right there. And this is something at the moment anyway we do not see in this chart. We don't see this moving average, this beautiful band, the start at the top, piercing the local high, basically. But if we do, okay, we're just doing what we've done before, and we could potentially be in top territory right there. So keep an eye on this indicator. Again, you can drop it into your charts. Just go to coinskid.com, follow the process. If you are already a VIP, all you gotta do is log into your account and click settings, and it'll populate again. So I've made an update to a very important indicator called the CoinsKid bull market support. Let's take a look at that right now. Okay. So the BMS bull market support band is really simple. It's a trend indicator. It shows you the overall trend, the macro trend, and you've got a little index down here that shows you the status of this particular coin or crypto or whatever, SPX, Tether, the DXY, whatever you put into it, providing it's got the data, it will tell you whether or not it's macro bullish or macro bearish. Okay, so what we're looking at is really simple. Bitcoin's bullish. It's giving us the bullish statement right now, and the inverse correlation of that is obviously, if this is bullish, we want to see that the tether dominance is bearish. Okay, and the tether dominance is the inverse correlation. So let's take a look at that right now. So this is your tether dominance. Currently it's bearish. So you're seeing this downtrend in the tether dominance, and you're seeing an uptrend with bullish macro uptrend in Bitcoin. But obviously at some point the trend will end. Okay, and you make a new trend. You make a new trend. Really simple. So you can clearly see at the moment from here we start to trend above the BMS, and then we start to trend below it. So we've been trending below it, and we're looking for this flush at the downside, where I've had this line for a very long time, where that is my strategy to sell Bitcoin. Once we see this flush at the downside, will we get it? I honestly don't know. Okay, I've not got a crystal ball, but what I'm looking at is the overall trend at the moment, which is what I'm respecting. And again, the trend is your friend until the end. The macro trend for the Tether, which is the inverse correlation of being risk on, risk off for crypto, is bearish. So that means that crypto is bullish, obviously with Bitcoin. So again, it works for every single chart you can think of. For example, let's just go for a couple right now. We've got Tesla, bullish, beautiful. We've got Tron, beautiful, bullish. Look at that, broke out way back down there, holding, fantastic, bullish. And it tells you down there what it is, total free. again breaking out, holding, bullish. We've got total 2, holding, boom, beautiful. And again, for those people that don't know, total 3 is cryptocurrency excluding Bitcoin and Ethereum, and total 2 is cryptocurrency excluding Bitcoin. And then obviously total is the entirety of the market right there, the entire market cap. So again, broke out here, boom, beautiful, bullish, really simple. So I'm relaying that to you. The trend at the moment is bullish. Let's take a look at another one, for example, the SPX, SP500. Look at this, boom, bullish at the moment. Okay, and obviously I'm looking for the reversal, looking for the trend change. I'm looking for this to flip bear. You can clearly see since down here it's been bull. Look at that, beautiful. So the trend is your friend until the end. This is I'm trying to relay to you. So people jumping up and down saying bear market, that's it, you know, we're in a bear market right now. Well, the macro trend is telling you that we're not. We're in an uptrend, and we're still adhering to that uptrend until we break down and lose structure, obviously. So this is why it is really difficult to time tops. But if we take a look at the RUT, look at this beautiful back test on the RUT. For anyone paid attention, this crash correction that came into the spring, I said to you, look at the God candle back test. I think that's where we'll bounce, boom, bounce like an absolute boss, come up, made all-time highs for this particular project. So the RUT is bullish, really simple. If we take a look at the likes of Render, currently bearish, but you're in this flag. Look at this. So you've got the beautiful ABC. Keep an eye on Render, because this might coil up and break out. If it takes out that neckline, we could be in price discovery up here somewhere. Render. So again, you know, we're just looking at the bull market support band. Anything will tell you whether or not it's macro bullish or bearish, and this is really important for the DXY. For anyone that's been paying attention to my updates over the years, I did say to you, this is a parabolic growth curve. As soon as this breaks down, we'll see a massive impulse to Bitcoin. It was one of the things I was showing you every single day. You know, go back to the videos. I said to you, if this comes down like this, it'll come back up, and this drop here to the downside will be where you'll have your end phase for Bitcoin, you know, your big blow up top. So if right now we are bearish and we hold this, which is the inverse correlation of risk, obviously, risk on, risk off, if this can hold this and drop again, that's the confluence to your big sort of push up and blow off top into Q4. So keep an eye on the DXY as well, okay? And obviously, most importantly, I think in this particular indicator that we've got to keep an eye on is a Bitcoin dominance. At the moment, Bitcoin dominance is actually bullish, although if you take a look, since breaking above the BMS, you know, and trending up basically, and we've seen that uptrend since late 2022 into early 2023 for Bitcoin, where it's just been constantly trending up. This is the first time in all of this uptrend that we've seen this drop below the BMS. And like I said to you, if we can turn this into resistance and we flip bearish, okay, we're in for a good time for alts. So keep an eye on that, you know, with the BMS going forward. So again, you can drop this into your charts. Just go to CoinsKid.com, follow the process. But the BMS is a really cool indicator to give you that macro outlook on your projects, and it works on any single ticker that you drop into it. Okay, let's dive into the Bitcoin chart, see what we can see. So looking at Bitcoin on the weekly time frame, I think Bitcoin, it has to hold the weekly middle band basically to stay bullish in this bull market, because when it comes up and gets overbought and it comes back into the mid-range here on the weekly, we have seen a positive reaction. So this is really important in this cycle that I think we, you know, continue to see that. And this is something I relay to you for anyone paying attention. Since this impulse began late here in 2022, we've got you know, your beautiful bullish divergence, where at the bottom, as confluence of that bottom being in, we've got the trend line just there of lower lows in the index, but we've got the RSI making higher lows. So that's a bullish divergence on the macro time frame. It's very powerful. Okay, so again, on the macro time frame, we are printing bearish divergence between these key pivot points at the moment, where, you know, you've got these higher highs for Bitcoin, and even this higher high here as well, you are printing bearish divergence. So there's your double bearish divergence that brought us in last year, and right now you've got another bearish divergence between these two pivot points where Bitcoin's come up and made that high just there. So you're printing bearish divergence, okay? So you've gone from a bullish divergence at the bottom to a potential bearish divergence at a potential top. So again, we've got to pay attention to this, where you've got to be really, really cautious, because in this pullback and correction that Bitcoin's going through, I'm looking for one thing to say, okay, this bull market's over. Obviously, losing the BMS is really important to jump up and down and say that, but I think momentum is a massive thing in this chart. So for anyone that's been paying attention to these updates over the years, every single time we've come up and had the expected correction, I've said to you, we come back into the mid zone and hold it, expect another impulse, and we did exactly that. And this is where I was buying, and then we break out to the upside and we come back into the mid zone and we can hold it, expect another impulse, and this is where I was buying, and then come back into the mid zone, expect another impulse, and again this is where I'm buying. So I'm just kicking back, relax. If we can come down into this mid zone like we did there, like we did there, like we did there, everyone, you know, is really fearful. We hold the BMS, and we start to coil up again and start to go, okay, we could be looking at a nice impulse from here coming back out where we break this bearish divergence. Okay, but obviously the inverse of that is we'll see the BMS being lost, we'll see the momentum on the weekly being lost, just like it did here. You're coming up and you're losing it, you're losing that momentum. At that point you've got to project down, you've got to look for the bullish divergence, which is your opportunity, okay, in time. So again, I think we're pulling back. If we can hold this mid-range in the weekly RSI, I think we could be where we were there, where we were there, and where we were there. Where we've had buying opportunities in this amazing bull run for Bitcoin. Okay, so just kick back, relax, see what happens at that point before we can jump to any conclusions, and obviously keep an eye on the structure and obviously the BMS as well for Bitcoin. And then obviously the inverse correlation is your tether dominance, your DXY, and the Bitcoin dominance on the BMS as well, so keep an eye on them. Let's dive into the lower time frames now to see what we can see. But Bitcoin is pulling back, it's nasty, it's horrible, it may have topped, who knows, no one knows. But what we're looking for is more clues in the data and the structure. And obviously if we begin to lose this mid-range of the weekly RSI, which is basically really simple, it's your momentum, if we lose that, then okay, Bitcoin is coming down the stairs, and at that point we've got to project down and look for bids in the lower zones, where again all we've got to do is focus on a bull div, or when we get really oversold on a weekly, because you can clearly see this was your buying opportunity in 2018, and you go back to the previous cycle, got really oversold on a weekly. We don't see Bitcoin down there too often, and when we do, even here when we had this huge corona dump, look, we flushed all the way down here, and it was just a buying opportunity. And again, if we see that, I'll be buying Bitcoin in the future, okay? But for us to project down and look at those lower levels in the RSI, I think we've got to put the statement in of losing momentum on the weekly. And at the moment we're coming back looking for the support of the weekly RSI, where we've bounced 1, 2, 3 times in this bull market so far for Bitcoin. So keep an eye on that. The weekly RSI into this box here, roughly in the 45 to 50 zone right there. I'll keep you updated on that as best I can. Let's dive into the lower time frames right now for Bitcoin, see what we can see, okay? So taking a look at Bitcoin on the 4 hourly time frame, I think at the moment monumental support for me is this level here, because I'm looking at this on XRP and many other charts, I'm going to say charts that basically from this low here we've seen an impulse, and it's a setup for XRP I've been looking at for a very long time with yourselves. For anyone that's paying attention to the XRP videos, I think we've potentially got some kind of expanding leading diagonal for XRP, where off this low we are seeing a beautiful impulse. So from the June low, which is basically this, XRP's come up into resistance, fell back to support, and it's had a third wave, okay, which is basically here. And then right now it's in a wave 4 coming back, that's going to possibly lose that wave 1 high. If it can respect the neckline and obviously this low within the XRP chart, I think we've got a potential of an expanding break to the upside and a major move for XRP. Okay, it could be a quite ferocious move to the upside. I think roughly $7 or $8 as a potential scenario if it respects the neckline and obviously this low. So I want to see Bitcoin hold this low as confidence, because if Bitcoin breaks down below that low, then it opens basically the floodgates to a deeper correction for Bitcoin and XRP. In the short term, if we take a look, everyone's pulling themselves, but from peak to trough at the moment we are down 12.5%, 12.69% for Bitcoin. Okay, and we've seen these crashes loads of times. I mean, from here to there, it's the same crash. From the top here to the bottom, you take a look, that was a whopping crash of 32%. We've seen many pullbacks like this of Bitcoin. From here to this bottom was roughly 33%. From here, it's a nasty one. What was that? 21% very quickly, followed by an impulse. And then from here as well, obviously from this peak to trough, 25%, even on the way out early back in 2022, broke out, back test this neckline, fantastic. That was from the high back down to the support, 22%. So we've seen big crashes and corrections in this bull market for Bitcoin, okay? But at some point, obviously, the trend will change, will fall below the BMS, and at that point, we've got to respect that. So the BMS is creeping up. You can clearly see at the moment it's around about 95,748. You can drop this in the 90 chart. Basically, just go to the BMS. If you don't want the banding constantly, just go to settings and you can drop it out, okay, so you don't see it. It's entirely up to you. So you just see the data of whether or not you're macro bullish or bearish. It's entirely up to you what you want to do, okay? So again, we're looking at this correction. Everyone's pulling themselves, jumping up and down saying bear market, but we've seen these corrections many times before in this bull market, and this is what we do see. So until we start to see more bearish data and structure, then I think, you know, we're potentially in the realms of a Q4 blow off top. And one of the clues I'm looking for that is really simple. It's the Tether dominance, it's the Bitcoin dominance, and obviously the DXY as well. They are currently in a macro bearish trend. Well, not quite on the Bitcoin dominance at the moment. We're looking for that signal basically, and that loss of the BMS. But what I'm looking at right now is really simple. Basically, Bitcoin's rolling over. Everyone's pulling themselves, but you're just having this nominal correction at the moment, and we're looking for the support to hold. So it is really simple, a game of resistance and support, and at the moment what we've done, we've tagged this level up here. This is your major level resistance going forward, I think, for Bitcoin, and this is your key level support. Really is that simple. So these are the wrong way around. That should be green. I do apologize, and this, it should be red. Obviously resistance is always red and support is always green. So I think basically, you know, your big macro move is within here. You break down below this green line, world of trouble, break above that red line, fantastic, price discovery, Q4 blow off top, and it really is that simple. So lose 98186 without taking out that level of resistance at 123,127, which is where I actually think a corrections began for Bitcoin. This is some kind of bull trap high. You know, it's in a world of trouble. If we break down below that support, and it's in a world of beautiful upside and glory if we break above that level of resistance right now. So you're caught basically. You come up in 5, you're retracing in zigzaggy waves, pretty much identical to XRP at the moment if we take a look. And this is why I do think this was the top, and I've shown you this of an impulse, because in this low here for XRP and Bitcoin, we had a ferocious third wave for XRP in my opinion. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for Bitcoin. We've come in for both charts. XRP made the lower high, so this is a bull trap on Bitcoin, and right now we're loading this complex correction for XRP, and we're loading this complex correction for Bitcoin. So this is why, and I keep reminding you, this is your absolute rock solid low for this impulse and, you know, confidence going forward, that we are looking at a pullback, hold support, and then we go again into Q4, which would be absolutely amazing for Bitcoin. Stay healthy, stay strong, stay tuned. If we do drop below this support, target that God candle back test just there around about $103,000. Take care everyone, back soon with an update. Stay strong, stay tuned. Take care everyone, bye bye.